Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we got a 2010, it's a Chevy Tahoe. The customer gets in the car, turns the key, tries to start it up, and gets just a clicking noise. I have a suspicion that it's going to be the starter that's no good, but I'm going to show you how to check it and to make sure that the starter is no good before you go ahead and replace it and find out that the starter was never the problem to begin with. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come around to the vehicle and we're going to check the battery to make sure there's sufficient voltage in the battery to start the vehicle, and then we're going to get a test light. Excuse me. We're going to get a test light, and we're going to check the power and the ground as well as the start side of the starter wire to make sure we have power there. So I got my test light hooked up in the front already. Let's go up there and I'm going to show you what it's doing and how to figure out what's going on and do the right repair the first time. And don't forget to hit the subscribe to my channel if you like what I'm doing, and give me a thumbs up and let me know what you think. Let's get up front. Alright, this is what we're getting. You can hear just a that's it. And as you can see, the headlights are staying fairly bright. So it's a pretty good indication that the battery itself is okay. But we're going to go down there, we're going to check it just to make sure. So we got a test light connected up over here. The one I use, it's a power probe. Anybody who's in the business knows that the power probe is actually a pretty good tool because one, it's got the light on it so you can see what you're doing, and you can also apply power and ground as needed. What we're going to do is this is the starter inside there. I know the light's probably going to be an issue here, but that's the starter down here. And if the red light lights up, which you can see it does, the light on here lights up red, that means you've got power, which we do have power. So we know we have the 12 volts coming down to the starter. We touch the starter and we know the ground is okay because you can see the light lighting up green, so we know the ground is good. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the harness and we're going to check in here to make sure that it has 12 volts in the crank position. Okay, I'm going to need two hands to do this because I don't want to puncture that wire. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay. All right, crank it. And you can hear it. That starter's barely even turning. So you know the starter itself is burnt up. Okay, thank you. Okay. I know it's difficult to see because it's so dark down in there, but we know that the starter is no good. So let me grab some tools. Let's lift this truck up, and I'm going to show you how to get that starter out. Okay, before we do anything as far as lifting the truck up, we're going to make sure we disconnect our positive lead here. Normally I disconnect the negative, but as you can see the negative's in a little bit of a tight spot, so I'm going to take the positive lead off. Now I know everybody knows that this is positive and you don't want to take your ratchet and touch it into a fender while touching this onto the positive side of the battery cable, because you will short the battery out. Alright, just be a little bit more careful because you don't want to have any damage to it. Alright, so we're just going to rock this back and forth and take this totally off and relocate it to the side away from where you're working, because as these cars get older or trucks get older, you put it over here and then it'll slowly work its way back over till it may touch by accident and you could have an issue down on the bottom while you're disconnecting it. So take your cable and relocate it far enough away so it's not going to gravitate back over to your to where you disconnected it from. All right, let's set the car up on the lift. Let's lift it up, and we'll see what we're going to do underneath there to get that starter out. Okay, now we're underneath the vehicle, and on the passenger side of the vehicle is where we're going to see the starter. That's the starter located up in there. A little bit of a tight spot, but once we take the bolts out, we should be able to remove it. So I'll get in there some tools, and as you can see, there's a lot of salt underneath here too. So we're going to get up in there. We're going to take those bolts out. They're probably 13 millimeter. We're going to take those two 13 millimeter bolts out. We'll pull the starter back, and we'll disconnect our electrical connectors. So let's grab some tools, and we're going to get started. And just so you know, while I'm underneath here, I see that the sway bar link, which is supposed to be right there, is missing. As you can see on this side, that's what it's supposed to look like. And that's what this side looks like. So that'll be a video for another day where I'll be changing the sway bar links on this thing here, sway bar or stabilizer links. So let me grab some tools, and let's get this starter done, and we'll go from there. And I know it's a little bit dark underneath here, so it's a little difficult to see, but we're going to get up here with this 13 millimeter, and we're going to remove the starter bolts. As you can see underneath this car, there's a lot of salt caked up underneath here. This is an off-road vehicle. It's a commercial vehicle, so it's off-road for most of its life. Take the one bolt out. Take our second bolt out. Now, the reason I'm not using air in here is there's so much salt underneath here. I'll be covered in all the salt. Alright, so we'll take that second bolt out and just pull it down and out. Make sure your bolts are both the same length, which in this car here, or this truck, they are. And the starter now is loose. And what we do is just move the starter back. Just push it back, and we'll disconnect the electrical leads. I know it's a little difficult to see, but I'm going to actually take off this lead right here, and then I'm going to pull the starter out through this opening right up inside here. I know it's a little difficult to see for you, but that's what I'm doing. So let me get that lead off, and then we'll pull that starter out. I'll come right back. Okay, and once we get that bolt loosened up so we can take it off, we can remove it and get the starter out from that opening right there. We're just going to pull that lead off. Just get it off to the side now. And then your starter will come up this way and out. I'm going to need two hands to do this, so let's see. I will tell you this, getting this starter out through here is a pain in the ass. They say it just comes right out through this wheel well, but the problem you'll run into is when these vehicles get older, the engine mounts kind of drop down a little bit, making it a little more difficult to get the starter out through there. But if you play around with it, you can get it to come out through there. It is really a tight squeeze. And anyhow, that's the starter. That's how you get it out. We're just going to pull it out the rest of the way. We'll grab the new one and we'll put the new one in. Let's open this up here. There we go. That's our starter. Not as easy as they say. It is a real pain in the ass to get it out, but it's out. Let's grab the new one, and we'll put the new one in. Now, I just want to point out that I did obviously take the wheel off so I can get in here to work a little closer. I did disconnect the electrical harness from this connector here, and to be quite truthful with you, I did a slight alteration on the heat shield right up in here, bent this up a little bit because these bolts were rusted solid and they felt like they were going to snap off. So I did bend this up a little bit to gain access to get through here. So let me grab the new starter and let's get that starter motor wrapped up. Come right back. Okay. All right, to be truthful with you, we're going to put this job on hold and we're going to wrap it up tomorrow morning because anybody who's in the business can tell you it's kind of rough working underneath these vehicles while all this snow and ice is starting to melt and dripping right down the back of your neck. So hopefully it's going to melt off all tonight, and we'll get this job wrapped up tomorrow morning. All right, so we'll come back tomorrow. We'll put that starter in and get this job out the door. See you tomorrow. Okay, now we got to get our new starter back in there. And we're just going to pull this back out, and we're going to get the new starter back inside. Now we got the starter back in. We're going to reconnect our wiring on there. Now we got the starter back in there. We're going to go underneath the bottom and we're going to reattach those bolts that we previously took out. Alright, don't know how you're going to see. It's going to be a tight spot for you to see anything in here, but I'll try to do my best. We're just going to lift the starter back into its position. Screw them in by hand. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze up here just to get your hand in there and get to the bolts. We'll get our second bolt taut. Once we've got them caught in there, we can tighten them up all the way. Tighten the starter's nice and tight. Now we're going to go back up top and we'll reconnect the positive and the electrical connector. Okay, now we've got our starter back in place. We're just going to bring our positive wire back in and reconnect it onto the starter itself. I might add that you want to clean that positive cable off to make sure it's a nice clean connection, which is already done. We're going to reattach the flat washer, or I should say lock washer, and put on our 13mm nut. And I'll tighten that down. Tighten it by hand as tight as you can. And I will have to tighten it up with a wrench. And then of course, make sure you reconnect your wire harness that plugs into the into here, so we can get it snapped in place. And you'll hear it snap in and it locked in. All right, now let me just tighten up that positive wire, and then we'll go up top and reconnect the battery. Now let me tighten it up, we'll come right back. Okay, now that we got our vehicle back down on the ground, we're going to reconnect our positive cable, and we're going to test it. All right, just put it down. Now when you tighten this up, remember, you got to be careful, because we're tightening up the positive, not the negative. If we touch something by accident, it could be catastrophic, as you know. All right, nice and tight. I'll put a cover back over the top of the battery. And now if you did your job correctly and everything is done the way it's supposed to, we should be able to get inside, turn the key, and it start right up. So let's check it out. That's the sound you want to hear. All right. Okay. So just follow my directions. Go step by step, nice and slow. And the hardest part you're going to have is going to be sneaking that starter out by the heat shield on the side there. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Any questions, any comments, drop me a line. Be more than happy to talk to you about anything. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.